Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Serious. What dark family secret were you let in on once you were old enough? Attention. Serious. Tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment. Parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour. And posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an ARMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. My dad secretly had a vasectomy after I was born. After my mom lying to him about taking birth control resulted in my birth. Our family is great at communication and conflict resolution. The great question here is if you have any siblings. Cold sweat smile. I was number 4. He knew she was cheating when she got pregnant with number 5. Lol, I'm glad we all have screwed up histories. I found my half-sister when she was 25 because my nephew did the DNA test on Ancestry.com. We pulled my dad aside to tell him what we discovered and he replied with, "That's the biggest secret that I've kept for 25 years. Quote, he was banging her married mom and got pregnant. She always felt different as she was really petite, tan skin and curly hair. None of which was in her family. Meeting her was like looking through a mirror into my childhood. She's my twin." The wildest story I read about genetic testing was 2 middle-aged sisters who discovered they were actually half-sisters. There were no other relatives still alive to be tested. So they had no way to figure out which one had been the cuckoo's egg. The only possibility was that someone else would get tested and connect with one of them someday. My great-aunt's husband killed his first wife, then killed her. They lived in Puerto Rico and he fled to NYC so my great-uncles wouldn't kill him. They found out where he was, came here, killed him, and went home. Edit, typo. Isn't it scary how succinct the explanation of things like this can be? I don't know. I had to read that first sentence 5 times to get it. My uncle didn't die in a car accident. He killed his mistress and then killed himself by crashing his car with her body in the trunk. Dude, here's a family story I refer to as the accident. For years my older sister's bio dad died in an accident when she was 8. She didn't find out until she was a teenager that it wasn't a car accident. It was a painted the ceiling with his brain accident. Anyway, fast forward 30-some years and my sister deals with a fuckload of mental issues. And is constantly treating her children poorly. It's Easter Sunday and our younger sister is introducing her boyfriend to our family. And it's his first meal with us. Think Moda Norman Rockwell style all-out meal but with a bunch of kids and family. But my older sister won't stop yelling at her kids. My dad, who has been her only active father, finally snaps and tells her to knock it off. She, a 40-something-year-old woman, pulls the, "You're not my dad" line like a shitty teenager. That man goes from calm to red, stood up, veins bulging from his head and absolutely screams, "Yeah. Your fucking child molester dad blew his fucking head off. He never had to deal with your bullshit." Quote. And that's how everyone in our family found out what the accident really was and why it happened. That story sure was a wild ride. I hope your sister got some help. I always thought my 2 older brothers got addicted to drugs because of their own decisions and the people they hung out with. It turns out that my dad had been feeding them pills since they were about 10 to shut them up. Years I held resentment against them for not being good older brothers like they should have, only to find out that it was my father who I had praised all those years that was truly evil. Edit. Wow. Wasn't expecting all of this lol. Just to address some of the comments. My brothers are doing mostly fine now. Both struggled but eventually found sobriety. Luckily enough family didn't give up on them. We have a pretty good relationship now and none of us hold anything against each other. We realize that none of us are to blame for the sins of our father. Not sure where dad is, no contact for about a decade now. In contrast, mom was and still is an angel. With her showing me who to be and my dad showing me exactly who not to be. I think I turned out pretty okay. A lot of the time the cycle just continues but my brothers and I managed to break it. I'm sorry to everyone who has gone through something similar. Thank you for sharing your stories as well. Hope everyone finds their peace someday. Love you. Wow, that really is dark. How are your brothers doing now? Edit, typo. I don't know if you're in touch with them. Or if you care to be. But if you felt like it I think sharing this with them would be really nice. Even if you don't intend to continue the conversation or even relationship. I think everybody I know would benefit from being told, "It isn't your fault," a little more often. I love this comment. A friend of mine that, in our youth got into regular trouble with his parents and eventually the law. Ended up living in squats on meth. He eventually moved back home to get clean. Went to a doctor for help, and was diagnosed with big time AD. He was 50 years old at this time. He called me up, so happy with the diagnosis. He always felt that he was just a bad person. The diagnosis turned his life around. He always thought he was just a bad person with no impulse control. He now has a house, is a moderately successful artist, and couldn't be happier. Not exactly dark, but I found out my father wrote porn novels under a pen name to make ends meet when I was a baby. I've been trying to find one ever since. Shame too. You might have been able to launch one of the most successful podcasts of all time if you had. Porn my dad wrote, JFC, the opening writes itself.